I almost blew right past Rijeka the way most people do. It sits exactly where the coast road bends toward Istria and the islands, so travelers treat it as a fuel stop with a ferry terminal. Then I climbed to a castle on the hill above town and stopped being in a hurry. Here is what is genuinely worth doing in Rijeka, starting with the view that changed my mind. That castle is Trsat, and it is where I would send you first. It sits on a ridge high over the city, and the whole sweep of the harbor and the gray water of the Kvarner Gulf opens up beneath you. The fortress goes back to the 13th century, built on a spot the Romans used long before that, because whoever held this hill controlled the river mouth. You can walk the walls and climb the tower for nothing, which is rare for a view this good. There is a cafe in the courtyard with a Gothic and oddly romantic look to it, and on a warm afternoon you will sit there longer than you planned. Right beside the castle stands the Basilica of Our Lady of Trsat, one of the oldest pilgrimage churches on this coast. You do not need to be religious to feel why people have walked up here for 600 years. Now about the walk up, the way pilgrims have reached Trsat for centuries is the Kružić stairway, and I am going to butcher that name, so forgive me. It is 561 stone steps climbing the hillside, begun back in 1531, with little votive chapels tucked along the way. Locals will tell you the devil himself built these steps in a bargain for the first soul to climb them, then got so furious when the monks sent a goat up first that he scrambled them, which is supposedly why nobody can count the same number twice. Take that with a grain of salt. The climb is real enough and your legs will know it. If you would rather skip the burn, bus 2 or bus 8 runs up to Trsat and you can walk the stairs down instead. Back in the center, make time for St. Vitus Cathedral because there is nothing else quite like it on this side of Europe. Most cathedrals are long and rectangular. This one is a great round drum, a rotunda, the only Baroque church of its kind ever raised on Croatian soil. Jesuits built it in the 17th century, and the dim interior rewards a slow look. Two things make people stop. Near the entrance, there is a real cannonball lodged in the wall, a leftover from a Napoleonic-era bombardment, set there with a wry Latin inscription that needles the English who fired it. And on the main altar sits an old Gothic crucifix wrapped in a dark legend. As the story goes, a man losing badly at cards hurled a stone at it, and the figure of Christ began to bleed. The stone is supposedly kept right there beside it. True or not, it beats the stories most cathedrals can offer. A 2-minute walk from the cathedral hides the strangest thing in Rijeka, and it runs underground. The Rijeka Tunnel was cut straight through the rock beneath the old town by the Italian military between 1939 and 1942, a shelter to keep civilians alive during the bombing raids. It stretches about 350 meters, well over 1,000 feet of cool, dim passage, and it sat sealed for 75 years before the city reopened it in 2017. You can still read the original wartime markings on the walls. It costs next to nothing. It takes 15 minutes, and on a hot day, it is the best air conditioning in town. Here is the fact that surprised me most about this place. The modern torpedo was invented right here. At the old torpedo factory on the waterfront, an engineer named Giovanni Lupus and a British manager, Robert Whitehead, built the world's first self-propelled torpedo in 1866. And for decades after, every navy on Earth came to Rijeka to buy the weapon. What survives now is the eerie part. Out past the working port stands the original launch station from the 1930s, a skeletal concrete platform reaching over the sea where they fired test torpedoes straight down a ramp into the water. The whole site has the feel of a place the world moved on from and forgot to clean up. Access can be limited and the structure is half crumbling, so check before you go. For anyone who likes industrial history with a pulse, nothing else in the city comes close. To feel Rijeka rather than tour it, walk the Korzo. This is the long pedestrian promenade running through the heart of town, lined with grand 19th and 20th century facades, and it is where the city actually lives. You will pass the old city tower with its clock and ornate gateway that has watched over the street for generations, and if you slip into the narrow lanes branching off it, you find smaller squares and quieter corners. People come here to walk slowly and watch each other do the same. Treat the Korzo as the place you drift back to between everything else. Most visitors walk right past a real secret inside the Ivan Zajc Theater. When this grand opera house opened in 1885, The ceiling paintings were handed to a young and completely unknown Viennese painter named Gustav Klimt, working alongside his brother Ernst and a third artist. Klimt was 23 and years away from being famous. Those early canvases are still up there, and the theater has even built a viewing platform so you can get a proper look. If your timing lines up with a performance, all the better, but the building and its baby Klimt ceiling are the real draw. Rijeka also has one of the best computer museums in the world, and that is not a sentence I expected to write. It is called Peek and Poke, and it runs more than 1,000 machines deep into the history of computing, from room-sized calculators to the home computers some of us grew up on. What sets it apart is that you can touch almost everything. Sit down at a Commodore 64 and play a game from 1985, poke at the old keyboards, fumble with punch cards. Children love it, and so does anyone over 40 who suddenly spots the machine from their childhood bedroom. It is small and hands-on, and it caught me completely off guard. 300 years, give or take, that is how long the Central Market down by the National Theater has been feeding this city. The covered pavilion went up in the late 1800s, and the stalls spill over with fruit, cheese, cured meat, and the fish that makes a port town worth living in. Come in the morning when the light is good and the vendors are sharp. Even if you are not cooking a thing, a coffee at the edge of the market is the most honest half hour you will spend in Rijeka. For history you can stand inside instead of reading about. Rijeka keeps its Roman bones out in the open, free to wander. The piece people photograph is the Old Gate, sometimes called the Roman Arch, though it was really the monumental entrance to a Roman military base, not a triumphal arch. Steps away, the excavated ruins of the Principia, the command center of the Roman town of Tarsatica, sit exposed beside modern streets, open to the public only a decade or so ago. This was the southern anchor of a Roman frontier wall that once ran for hundreds of miles through the mountains. It is quiet, it is overlooked, and it is a short walk from the oddest landmark in the old town. The Leaning Tower of Rijeka tilts about 40 centimeters off true, better than a foot of lean, and it has a reason. This bell tower in front of the Church of the Assumption dates to 1377, and the builders set it over the soft ground of old Roman baths, so the earth shifted and the tower tipped. The church behind it wears a Baroque face over much older bones. It is a 5-minute look rather than a crosstown pilgrimage, but if you are walking past, tip your head and enjoy it. Down at the water, the Dead Channel is the prettiest place in Rijeka to do nothing at all. It is a still arm of water, a leftover bend of the old Rečina riverbed, lined now with moored boats and worn, handsome buildings reflected in the calm. The grandest is the Ottoman Palace, where Croatia's first permanent cinema opened back in 1906. This stretch was once the loud marketplace of the city, where boats unloaded oil and wine. Walk it slowly toward the Liberation Monument at the far end, and you will see why locals come here to slow down. After a morning on your feet, climb back toward Trsat and eat at Konoba Tarsa. This is the one sit-down meal I would build an afternoon around. It hides in the quiet lanes behind the Trsat Sports Hall, all exposed brick and wooden beams, a family tavern that does not need to advertise. The grilled meat and the fresh fish are the move. The platters are built for sharing, and on weekends a traditional tamburica band plays. It is not fancy and does not try to be, just the meal you end up talking about on the drive home. The everyday pleasure of Rijeka is the coffee, so lean into it. This city takes its cafe sitting seriously, and an hour over a single cup is a completely respectable way to spend a morning. The terraces are built for watching the street go by. When the sun drops, walk down to the harbor and find Brasserie, where you can drink Belgian-style beer with the ships passing right in front of you, which is a fine way to lose an evening. You do not need a list of cafe names, just a terrace and the patience to stop rushing. Every Rijeka list throws in the Port of Rijeka as a site, and I am not going to pretend. It is a working cargo port, the biggest in Croatia, and unless heavy cranes and container ships genuinely thrill you, there is nothing to do there but look at it. The one thing in that direction worth your time is the Maritime and History Museum nearby, which tells the region's seafaring story properly and earns an hour on a gray day. So save the museum for bad weather and let the port stay a port. One stop is worth building your whole trip around, if your dates allow it. Every February, Rijeka throws one of the largest carnivals in Europe, pulling something like 100,000 people into the streets. The heart of it is the vanchari, the bell ringers, men in shaggy animal hides and fierce masks who march through clanging huge bells to drive winter off. Over 100 groups parade down the Korzo with floats that mock whoever earned it that year. Come in deep winter, and this alone is worth the trip. Any other month, you will just have to take the locals' word for it. If you have a second day, spend it out of town, because the coast on either side of Rijeka quietly outshines the center. Start with Apatia, a short hop about 13 kilometers down the shore, and a different world entirely. This was the grand seaside resort of the old Austro-Hungarian elite, all Belle Epoque villas and manicured gardens. The thing to do is walk the Lungomare, a sea-level promenade that runs roughly 12 kilometers along the water past mansions and swimming coves. Stop at Villa Angelina and its park, full of camellias and even giant sequoias, and watch for the Croatian Walk of Fame underfoot. Apatia was built to be strolled, so give it an afternoon and do exactly that. Keep on that same promenade, or drive a few minutes more, and you reach Lovran, which is where I would end your trip. It sits at the foot of Mount Wuchka with a tight medieval core of stone lanes and Habsburg-era villas strung along the water. The pebble beaches are good, the old center invites you to wander without a map, and at its heart stands the 12th century Church of St. George, painted inside with Gothic frescoes by old local masters. Time it for October, and the whole town smells of roasting chestnuts during the Marunata Festival. 3 weekends of sweet chestnut everything. Small, unhurried, and the perfect last taste of this coast. So how do you actually use all this? Give Rijeka itself a full day built around Trsat and the old town, and you will have hit the heart of it. Add a second day for Apatia and Lovran, because the Riviera right next door is half the reason to come, and the people who rush through never find that out. Come in February if you want the carnival, late spring or early autumn if you want the coast without the crowds. If you only have one slot to fill, climb to Trsat for the view and let the rest follow it. The tour operators worth booking here and the travel guide I use to keep the costs down are both linked in the description. Rijeka is the city everyone passes through. Be the one who stops.